Today's entertainment plate. Every year on the 16th of June, South Africa celebrates the 1976 Soweto uprising. This is done to pay tribute to learners who stood up against the apartheid government. Observed as a public holiday, this day serves as a reminder that young people in the country were in the forefront of our struggle. It also provides us with an opportunity to take stock of the strides that are made in addressing the issues facing the youth of today. During this Youth Month, government and its agencies such as the National Youth Development Agency will host a number of engagements. Indulging into sexual intercourse without the use of protection can get you at risk with a lot of infections, STIs and an STD. HPV is one of the most common sexually transmitted infections. Many people with HPV don't develop any symptoms but can still infect others through sexual contact. Our guest this afternoon is our ever-present expert, Nthabiseng Mogashoa, who is forever also emancipating the minds of young and old people alike. This week, however, she and I are tackling the STI known as HPV. A very good afternoon, Nthabiseng. How are you? What is HPV?
A very beautiful afternoon to you, Noctula, and the listeners at home. Thank you so much for hosting me once again on the Drive-Thru Show. Quite an uncomfortable topic that we're tackling today. But just before we get into the gist of things, just before I respond to your question, allow me to actually emancipate the listeners at home with the fact that might just get them interested, that might just motivate them into paying attention throughout the whole interview. Now, Noctula, research shows that 1 in 2 sexually active young people will get an STD by the age of 25. And the most unfortunate part of it is that most will not even know about it. Hence, it is very much important, it is very much imperative that we have these platforms, we discuss and engage these topics, as uncomfortable as they may be. It's important, Noctula. You ask what HPV is. Most people tend to confuse HPV with HIV, and these are totally two different things. HPV is actually an acronym for a virus called human papillomavirus, Noctula. Human papillomavirus is the most common sexually transmitted infection. Now, many people with HPV don't develop any symptoms, but they can still infect others through sexual contact. That is what HPV is, Noctula. It's very chronic. There is treatment, but it is very, very much chronic.
Is HPV also still identified as an STI?
Today we're actually tackling a topic that most people, more especially young people, are not comfortable having. It's not every day where people are comfortable with having conversations about sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted infections. But it's quite imperative that at the end of the day we engage upon such issues so that people may have accurate information. Because usually people think if they have either an STD or an STI, then they can use both the acronyms to describe it, but that is actually untrue. You can have an infection without symptoms. Allow me to actually explain the difference between the two, STI and STD, sexually transmitted infections and also sexually transmitted diseases. Disease simply means that the symptoms of the said alignment are present, and we only describe things such as diseases when the symptoms are present. So basically, when no symptoms are present, which is often the case with other infections and sexual viruses, it is referred to as an STI. If you remember, Noctula, I did mention before that many people with HPV don't develop any symptoms but can still infect others through sexual contact, which therefore means that HPV is a sexually transmitted infection.
What are the different types of HPVs that can be found?
The most unfortunate part is that there are actually more than 100 types of HPV, Noctula, of which at least 14 are cancer-causing. We actually classify them into 2 categories, low-risk HPV and also high-risk HPV. The difference between the two is actually that low-risk HPV strain includes low-risk HPV 6, low-risk HPV 11, low-risk HPV 42, low-risk HPV 43, and also low-risk HPV 44. Any individual affected, in fact, are infected by low risk HPV 6 up and 6, 11, 42, 43, 44 would have symptoms of genital warts or bumps on their skin. Now, when you speak of high risk HPV, this is a strain that includes HPV 16, high risk HPV 18, high risk HPV 31, high risk HPV 36, and also high risk HPV 17. And now the most detrimental factor about this kind of HPV is that it is cancer causing.
What are the symptoms of HPV?
You know, Noctula, the most tricky part regarding this infection is that most people with HPV don't usually show any symptoms or health problems. Although sometimes HPV can cause what we call genital warts, and other types of HPV can actually cause cancer, like I've mentioned before. Now, when we speak of genital warts, we actually speak of harmless growth. And now some of our listeners might be asking themselves, what am I speaking of? I'm actually speaking of fleshy, soft bumps that can actually appear anywhere. Your head, your skin, But usually in women, we have what we call genital warts, which are fleshy, soft bumps that appear in the vulva, right? And other types of HPV can cause cancer, different types of cancers. Anal cancer, throat cancer, and also vulva cancer. These are the symptoms that we have for HPV, Noctula.
And what is the treatment of HPV?
Treatment actually depends on the stage, Noctula, because now remember we have low risk HPV and also high risk HPV. But kindly note that there is no cure for the virus, and the warts, which are actually the soft fleshy bumps, may go away on their own. Treatment focuses on removing the warts, and on the other hand, vaccine prevents the HPV strains to most likely cause cervical cancer. We have three types of treatment, if I may put it that way, which are medical procedure, medication, as well as surgery. When you speak of medical procedure, it actually includes loop electrosurgical excision procedure, also freezing, as well as cervical conization. Medication includes topical anti-tumor medication, Noctula, which is actually a medication that is given to patients to treat skin cancer. So if a patient has warts on their skin, they're given this kind of medication. And the last one, which is surgery, electrosurgery. It uses electric current to cut tissue and also to control the bleeding that may occur during surgery, Noctula. Speaking about sexually transmitted infections, transmitted diseases may be quite uncomfortable for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, these are issues, these are topics that as a society we need to make sure that we understand. We need to make sure that we have accurate information upon them. Hence, I say it is important for young people to be emancipated. It is important for young people to comprehend sexual matters. Noctula, from me, I would like to say to young people that may they stay beautiful, may they stay blessed, but most importantly, may they condomize. Condomize, Noctula. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Until next time.
This Future Beats feature was proudly brought to you by Higher Health. Tomorrow, Matters Today.